Let's talk about UI layout. For too long, we've treated it like it's some fuzzy, subjective thing, a matter of taste. Well, today, we're going to ditch that idea. We're going to turn layout into a system of clear, objective rules you can memorize and use every single time. Let's do this.
So let's start with a question we've all asked ourselves. Why do so many user interfaces just feel off? You know, they're cluttered, confusing, and honestly just a pain to use. What's really going on there?
Your first instinct might be to blame the colors. You probably spent hours tweaking palettes, trying to find that perfect combo. But you know what? That's almost never the real problem.
Okay, so it's not the colors, and it's probably not your font choice either. Look, typography is super important, don't get me wrong, but it's not the foundational reason that a UI completely falls apart. Nope, the real culprit is something much, much more basic.
It's all about the layout. A messy, inconsistent, just plain chaotic arrangement is what truly shatters the user experience. It's kind of like the visual equivalent of someone just shouting every single word at you. And that is exactly what we are here to fix.
So let's reframe how we think about this. Layout isn't just about making things look pretty. It's a communication system. And here's the kicker. It has to work instantly. A good layout has to answer 4 key questions for the user in under 3 seconds. If it can't do that, it's already failed.
And here they are, those 4 crucial questions. Your layout has to grab the user's eye and tell them exactly where to start. It needs to visually show them what stuff is related. It has to give them permission to ignore all the non-critical fluff, and, most importantly, it has to make the very next step completely blindingly obvious.
All right, enough about the problem. Let's get to the solution. I'm about to hand you a toolkit of non-negotiable rules. And I mean it. These aren't suggestions. They're the fundamental principles you need to bring order to any chaotic screen.
First up, alignment. This is a super simple idea. It just means that related elements have to line up along a shared edge. It could be left, right, or center. Just pick one and stick with it. This is literally the bedrock of a clean interface.
Just look at the contrast here. It's night and day, right? When things are even a tiny bit misaligned, it just creates this static, this visual noise that feels amateurish. But the second you snap everything to a grid, bam, you get instant order, you make it easier for the user to think, and the whole design just feels intentional and professional.
So here it is. This is your first rule to burn into your brain. If 2 elements are related in any way, they absolutely must align. If they don't, you're telling the user they're not related. It's that simple and it's that powerful.
Okay, our next rule is spacing. And listen, this one is a big deal. Spacing isn't just empty area. It's not nothing. It's an active tool that you use to define relationships and build a crystal clear hierarchy.
I mean, check out the difference. When all the spacing is equal, it's like every element is shouting at the same volume. The user has no idea what's important, and the hierarchy just collapses. But when you use spacing with intention, closer for related items, further for unrelated ones, you create this clean, easy path for the user's eye to follow. They can just scan it without even thinking.
And that brings us to our next core rule to memorize. It's almost like a math formula. Spacing differences equals meaning differences. The moment you change the space between 2 things, you change how the user perceives their relationship.
Now, there's a specific type of spacing that's so important it gets its own rule: margins. The best way to think about margins is as the invisible, predictable frame around your content. You just pick a base number, say 16 pixels, 24 pixels, whatever, and you stick to it. That consistency builds a subconscious sense of trust and stability for your user.
So here's the thing. This is the one area of design where you don't want to be creative. Your margins should feel boring. They should feel predictable. Seriously, that's the whole point. Their job is to be the stable foundation for everything else you put on the screen.
Next up is grouping. This rule is all about basic human psychology. Our brains are hardwired to see things that are close to each other as being related. Remember, users don't read screens. They scan them for chunks of information. Your job is to create those chunks for them.
Let's take a simple money transfer screen, for example. If you have the amount field, a little line of help text, and the send button all spaced out equally, the user's brain has to pause. It has to work to figure out what belongs to what. That tiny moment of hesitation, that's a failure of grouping. And here is a rule that will save you so much time and effort. Good grouping creates meaning way faster than any label you can write. The brain processes that visual relationship in a fraction of a second, long before it even gets around to reading the text.
Okay, so we've got the core rules down. Now let's shift gears and get super practical. How do you actually apply all this? And maybe more importantly, what are the common mistakes that just scream amateur design?
These right here, these are what I call portfolio killers. Things like random spacing, using a bunch of divider lines because you don't know how to use space, centering everything just because, and having absolutely no margin discipline. These are the red flags that tell a hiring manager you don't know the fundamentals. You got to avoid these at all costs.
So instead, use this checklist. Make it your new best friend for every single screen you design. Before you even think about picking a color, ask yourself, are related items aligned? Is the spacing meaningful? Is the main call to action obvious? Does the grouping make sense even if I took away all the labels? And my personal favorite, can I simplify? Can I just delete 20% of what's on this screen? The answer is almost always yes.
And this right here, this is the real payoff. Knowing these rules fundamentally changes how you talk about your work. You stop saying vague stuff like, oh, we improved the layout, and you start saying things with precision like, we reduced cognitive load. That ability to justify your decisions is what gets you hired.
Let's end on the core philosophy that drives all of this. See, taste is subjective. It's flimsy. It crumbles the second someone questions it. But a UI that's built on a foundation of clear, logical layout rules, that's defensible. It works because it's based on how people actually see the world, not just on your personal preference.
So, I'm going to leave you with a challenge. Think about an app you use every single day, or maybe a project you're working on right now. What's one screen, just one, that you can make better using the rules of alignment, spacing, and grouping starting today?